And just a few words about the Volgograd, so about some fun stuff in Volgograd. So it's the only city in Russia where you can see the tramway under the earth. So it's the only one city in Russia where there is a special dancing bridge. So it's a bridge which goes like that, like sinusoidal phases. So it's the only city where the cutlet, Kiev cutlet, which has no connection with Kiev, is some kind of cult fast food. So, and it's the city of everything the most. For example, it's very long city, more than 100 kilometers. It's just the city which has the biggest house. It's the city which has the biggest statue for ever lived person, and so on and so forth. And our city is the only city where there is a special cult, religious cult of cosmic communists. So, okay, and if we are talking about something serious, I want to tell you that Volgograd is, of course, the city where the war is everywhere, because the city is full of different war memorials, individual and collective graves, so different war sculptures and so on. So, so the city is stuck in this context of the Second World War and the Stalingrad battle. What is the main problem is that the war is not the thing which makes you phobic about, yes, but it's the thing which people are very proud of. So, and Volgograd citizens like to make jokes about the Stalingrad battle. So maybe you know that the worst roads in Russia, they're in Volgograd. So there's the real photos, really. And people in Volgograd say that it's just the heritage, historical and cultural heritage of Stalingrad battle, so, and we leave it because it's a part of our heritage. But the main problem, so because today I will talk much about the local communities, the main problem is that the city was absolutely ruined after the Second World War, and the new people, the citizens who live in Volgograd, they're newcomers, and they were coming in Volgograd, in Stalingrad that time, yeah, as one of the most ambitious buildings of post-war time. So those are people from different republics, different confessions, different nationalities. So Volgograd is one of the most polyethnical and polyconfession city in the south of Russia. And people don't identify themselves with the territory. So this feeling of aerial roots and that we are all aliens, it still exists in Volgograd, and people are dreaming to go to leave the city, like Zeep told us previously. So the same situation about Volgograd. And so one of the main problems is also fragmentation. So you see the metro in London, metro in Paris, metro in New York City, and metro in Volgograd, because Volgograd is a very, very long city. It's more than 100 kilometers, and it has two boulevards. Проспект, Barbara, как будет проспект? Prospect, yeah, two prospects. And in Russian there is a proverb: when you drink vodka, you say between the first shot and the second shot the period is not so big. So between the first road in Volgograd and the second road in Volgograd there is a city Volgograd. It's okay. So the city is divided into different districts and different territories, and just the same about communities, because nobody communicate with each other. So people don't know that there is a Korean diaspora in Volgograd, or so that there is a Hungarian diaspora, and so on and so forth. So that's the fact with which we deal. And one very interesting problem is the lack of cultural continuity. So people stuck in a war, and they don't know, so they can't construct their vision of the future, yes? And the city is like a very huge museum, but nobody knows what was 10 years ago, 5 years ago, yes, and each festival of video art in Volgograd is announced like the first festival of video art, so people don't remember what is happening. So a loss of cultural memory, and of course Volgograd is a transit and a borderland, so it's the territory between the Moscow and between the North Caucasian region. So maybe you have heard about these terrorist attacks in Volgograd, yes, it's because it's border condition. And of course the main idiosyncratic feature of Volgograd citizens is that they hate their city. So self-criticism is just one of the idiosyncratic feature of all the Volgograd citizens. Okay, so so you know about the city, because I will tell something about it a bit later. So it was maybe 4 years ago I wrote my PhD thesis about participatory art practices and joined to Agency for Cultural Initiatives. It's a state organization in Volgograd. And then we met with Barbara. And this fantastic collaboration for 2 years started. And we decided, okay, we will do public contemporary art projects. So it will be public art. So why public art? Because we wanted to deal with the different issues. And issue number one, the absence of exhibition spaces. So we really don't have any exhibition spaces. I mean, commercial and non-commercial. So just only one museum of arts. So it is a state museum of arts. And maybe if somebody were in Volgograd, but of course not, except Barbara. Maybe you remember this picture. So it's a picture of Ilya Mashkov, one of the most famous avant-garde artists. And this portrait is now in Volgograd. But this picture is not from Volgograd. It's from Venice Biennale of 1924. And Italian critics, they told that Russian pavilion on Venice Biennale is insalata russa, so Russian salad, because everything was combined like that. And it's very interesting that it's still like in Volgograd, because Volgograd Museum of Arts is situated in a vegetable shop. You know, yes, this space was constructed for vegetable shop, and they said, okay, be here, and maybe in 5 years we will build a new museum. And from 1960s, no museum at all. Okay, so the second is the absence of Volgograd on the map of contemporary art. So we said, okay, let's stop it and make some contemporary art here. And of course, the lack of community of contemporary artists. So we were thinking about our project as a self-organization. So we want to create some kind of community of artists which could help each other and so on. And of course, the fourth is redevelopment, revitalization of abandoned spaces, of inactive spaces, of unused spaces. And each year we realize our decade of public art. So we open it on abandoned space or unused space. For the first year, it was Spiritus Plant. So this is the territory of the Spiritus Plant. And this is the Spiritus Warehouse, where we made an exposition. It was a wonderful smell of alcohol inside. So people, yes, I think they like this exposition. So that's how it looks like. And the second year, it was Water Supplies of the 19th century. So it's in the center, it's situated in the center of a city, but it's not used at all. So we started this process of somehow revitalization. And other projects we implement and realize in different public spaces. What are they? For example, it's under-earth passages, so it's bus stops, it's a small architectural forms of Soviet period. So it's a building which has never been built in the center of the city. It is a water pool, it is different yards, it is a hotel room, it is a post office, it is a planetarium in Volgograd, it is a 20th floor of building, because you can see from the Motherland, it was a project about Motherland. But the main problem, of course, is our budget. So we were talking about the budget, and each year it's nearly 3,000 euros, and you should divide it on two, because half of that goes on organization, like documentation, making electronic catalog, of course not printed, we have no money at all. And for example, rent of equipment, like audio equipment, and half, 1,500 euros we have on implementation of art projects. In 2015 it was 22 projects, in 2016 it was 25 projects, but you can ask how you can do that on your money. Okay, so the answer is, the first one is micro interventions, and just one example of micro interventions. You know maybe that in Soviet Union there is such an interesting tradition of painting trees in white, yes? Do you know why people are doing this? Why the services are doing this? Yeah, we were making a special research, and we collected nearly 15 hypotheses about it. Yes, but none of them was true. And of course, if some hypothesis is describing while people are painting trees, so the mystery is why they're painting the lampstands. So what's going on? We said, okay, but you don't know that maybe it's not, yes, it's not useful, and sometimes it is dangerous for trees. And of course, a lot of money of municipality goes on this painting, because you need to buy the paint, you need to pay for people who will paint in it. And we understood that this tradition is like some kind of Soviet and post-Soviet ritual of order. So when you paint it, everything is in order. So you are ready for the spring, you are ready for the new year. Yes, because they painted in the spring. So what we have done, for example, so Anton Kapustin, so he found these abandoned spaces and get them to order. Yes, it was like that, and now it's like that. So everything is correct. It was like that, and this line with the tree, you know, everything is in order. And the other tragedy, of course, is art of the social turn, because art of the social turn doesn't need much money. So what is that, art of social turn? There are different conceptualization of it. For example, relational aesthetics, participatory art, community-based art, communicative art, dialogical aesthetic, new genre, public art, blah, 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 blah. Okay, so those are the conceptualization of Nicolas Bourriaud, I don't know, Claire Bishop, Grant Kester. Yes, and maybe now I wouldn't spend your time to explain what is the difference between these, because there will be wonderful essays, yes, Igor, yeah, there will be essays in a book, yeah, and you can read it there. So maybe just one theoretical schema here, because because I'm in a conference, so I need to do that. So this is my schema of building the community. So I think that it consists of participation, which includes relations like communication, empathy, solidarity, and no, it's not funny. Okay, and interaction, so like collective actions, and the sense of belonging, of course, it's very important, and it goes through sharing. The sharing of what? Of collective actions and maybe of emotions, and then here we are, we go community to community. Of course, there are different mechanisms for formulating the sense of belonging, like, for example, exchange and gift, but of course there is a lot of critique about it, and especially critique about relational aesthetics, because it's just goes like in a capitalist society. So we came to the idea of sharing, yeah, sharing. Okay, what are the types of sharing? Here is the Maurice Blanchot, La communauté inavouable. Yeah, am I right? I don't know. I don't know French. So, and he says, for example, that you can, for example, construct community with help of sacrifice. Do you remember what is happening in the Madagascar movie? Yeah, so they have no water, they're thirsty, and this they start aggression to each other, and this lemur, he invites very wonderful idea. What is the idea? How to strengthen the community. No, but I have seen Madagascar movie. He said, okay, let's do sacrifice. And they said, okay, hooray, let's bring the sacrifice, yes. But maybe sorry to say, but in Russia it is impossible to make sacrifice for the people. So, for example, another tendency can be mystery. And just one example of Katarina Sheda, she's from Czech, an artist. And in Brno, you know, the city, yeah, in the Czech Republic, there was a special problem. So they built the block houses. Yes, and the municipality thought, oh my God, we built the block houses, but people don't communicate with each other what to do. And they said, okay, we will paint the buildings into a different paint. But it didn't work, okay? So they called Katarina Sheda, come and help us. And Katarina Sheda just invented very interesting idea. She took the shirts, she put these buildings, painted buildings on her shirts, because she wanted to be these buildings as the part of their identity. She put these shirts in envelopes and sent it to the livers of these houses. So when you get the envelope, but the address who sent it was not Katarina Sheda address, of course, but the address of other people living in this apartment. So you go to this address and say, guy, thank you for this shirt. And he said, no, it's not me, but I have the same. Let's go to other guy. So they come together to other guy. And so for 6 months, they were really obsessed by this idea who presented them these shirts. So, and they communicated with each other, they make friendship, they were living with this mystery. And after 6 months, Katarina Sheda invited them to art exhibition to explain them what was happening really. But she didn't tell them. told them what she wants to say. And when the opening started, it was very interesting that some of the participants came in these shirts, because now it became the part of their identity. Okay, so Wochenklause were missing. So okay, they're congruent. So this is emotional condition which gives you the sense of belonging. What feelings it can be? For example, fear, disgust, hate. Jean-Luc Nancy also writes about joy. Blanchot writes about death and sorrow. And for example, Adrian Piper, it's the building of community through joy, through funk lessons, the project of 80s. But we wanted to tell a bit about hate, because you know that Russian government sometimes and the municipality are building the community through the hate to the social, to some social groups, for example, like gay people, through homophobia. What is the problem of Russia? Of course, gay people, so we should punish them or make some kind of laws. And very interesting, it's real fact, it's not the art project. In Volgograd, a few years ago, there was a meeting, political meeting, for the defeating from Khazarian Khaganate. Do you know what is Khazarian Khaganate? You know. Tell us. Yeah, really. So it was the kingdom of the 10th century and the territory of Russian Federation. So it was 10 centuries ago, yes. And people combined a community with this hate to the Khazar people. So I think it's wonderful context, but we wanted to walk with it further. And what we have done, so in Volgograd, there is a Paleolithic settlement of Neanderthal people. Do you know who is Neanderthal? Yeah, it's another species of hominids. Yeah, like we are Homo sapiens sapiens, and there were Neanderthals, and they were fighting with each other. Yes, and there is a special monument of federal importance of this Paleolithic settlement. But the problem is that garage cooperative occupies this territory, this Paleolithic settlement, and we thought, okay, we can use it, so we can build the community, so strengthen the community of garage cooperative people with this hate to Neanderthal people. So, of course, in ironical context. So, and Dima Davlechin came with different lozungs like freedom, equality, Cro-Magnons, so standing with the individual picket. But do you know, in Russia there is such a form as individual picket. So if you want to make a political meeting, you should make agreements with the police. But if you make the individual picket, you can do it by yourself. So you shouldn't do any information about the police. And we wanted to make this individual picket into the collective meeting with these people, combining by this hate to the Neanderthal people. So here it is said, Neanderthals go home. Here it is said, glory to garage cooperative, our survivor, and so on and so forth. Yes, and so not so much people wanted to get pictures, yes, but some of them wanted. So here is put your hands away from hominids. Okay, so it was our. It was our idea, can you use it as a technology? So making the community through the hate to something abstract. So just few more, yes, I'm finishing, okay. So just this is the marshrutka. You know that in Russia there are mini buses like marshutkas, yes? And close to Volgograd there is another city, Volsky, and our artist, Nastya Butsenina, she's on the left top corner. She is coming to Volgograd in the university 90 minutes in one way and 90 minutes in other way. So and she goes through the river Volga. And we were thinking that it is a huge quantity of free time, yes, so what to do with it? Of course you can't read because you remember the roads, yeah, it goes like that, so it's impossible to read in Volgograd, in Marshutka. So we were thinking about some kind of technology where people through all this time, I mean 3 hours, and some of people of course know each other because they go just the same time, but they don't know their names, some kind of technology which will allow them to share their knowledges, share their competences, share their, for example, so, and we offered them to do everything they want, for example, to share singing, to share food, to share, for example, their knowledge in English, yeah, while you're coming on Marshutka, you can can study English and so on. And also we were thinking about how this technology can survive without a moderator, without a facilitator, so like the artist and curator was in this marshutka, yeah? So yes, everybody wanted to join. And the last example is a community of violet breeders. Yes, because in Russia there is such a phenomena as an exposition of violets, exposition of violets in galleries and museums, in state museums. So you go to the museum, you see the paintings of the 18th century, 19th century, 20th century, and then you see the violets, and you see, oh my God, what is happening here? So, and we wanted to understand this phenomena, and because we thought that it is a wonderful idea. It's some kind of folk form of curating, folk form of exhibiting. So we make some kind of discussion and connection with these violet breeders. We collected all their local stories, and we understood that they are very cool. So these wonderful women, they're so inspiring and so interesting because they were living through 90s, yes, and through perestroika and so on and so forth. But for what we collected them to make an exposition about not violence, but about violets, but about them. And we said them, okay, so violets is like aesthetical thing. So you're like using traditional forms of art. It's like a classical art, but there is a contemporary art, and it can be political and social. And we asked them through their stories, local stories, to make some kind of lozungs. And we made the exposition, and through this exposition, the violets were with lozungs. So we told them about that their art of breeding violence can be also political, and they can say some kind of messages through these violets. Okay, it was just some examples. Thank you very much. I think in 20 minutes, I don't know.